first publication, which could be called a magazine, was This German Magazine, released in 1663. It was a literary and philosophical edition. After its launch, several similar periodicals were published intended for an intellectual audience. They were written mainly by one author, so the thematic scope was very narrow. In 1672, a French author created a publication similar to today's magazines. This magazine was called Mercure Galant. It covered topics such as theater, literature, and court events. The word magazine first appeared with the occurrence of the Gentleman's Magazine in the 1700s. The word magazine comes from French and Italian words, which both translate to mean a place for storing goods or warehouse. The magazine was a success, but the cost of an issue were high, and the number of printed copies were limited. Distribution was also limited to short distances. In the mid-19th century, magazines became available to the middle class. This was the beginning of the first family magazines, such as Dickens' Household Words. During the 19th century, there weren't very many advertisements in magazines because of a special tax. It wasn't until the tax was repealed and the invention of the rotary press that advertising in magazines became attractive to marketers. The first ad agency was established in 1890, and from that point on, advertising started to flourish. Today, there are magazines for everyone. Food magazines, women's magazines, sports magazines, men's magazines, magazines for children, business magazines, and many, many more. Today's magazine advertising is one of the greater revenue generators for the industry. Target audience. Magazine ads reach specific audiences. Magazines are printed monthly, and the class of people who read them varies according to the type of magazine. Focused attention. Magazines and magazine ads capture focused attention. The focused process of magazine reading leads to less multimedia tasking, ensuring single-minded attention to advertising. Long ad life. Repeated ad exposure. Magazines are often kept for months, so the message keeps selling. Excellent picture quality. HD images are more attractive and are more superior quality to newspaper ads. Expanded target market. Whether you are a large or small business, you have the ability to advertise magazines that are read all over the country, building a brand on a larger scale. Long lead times. Magazines require the longest lead times of any form of advertising, sometimes as long as 3 months. Advertising clutter. Magazines feature a glut of advertisements. An ad must assert itself among a chaotic clutter of all other ads, all demanding attention. High costs. High-resolution photography, sophisticated graphics, top-quality glossy paper, production and distribution costs all contribute to the high price tag. Future of magazines. Since we are in the digital age, print media is in jeopardy. With sales subscriptions falling and more people downloading content from the internet, where does that leave the magazine industry?
As publishing goes digital, the first digital magazines have been print magazines shrunk down and put into digital page flipper apps. Now, with the groundbreaking release of 11 Media's MagTitan software, the next era of magazine publishing has begun. Here's a sneak peek of what it will look like. Let's start with readability. The MagTitan software recognizes every single type of device and delivers of 11's magazines in that specific digital format, so it's both beautifully displayed and practical to read. Advertising will no longer be just dumb images, but rather smart interactive pages that can refresh themselves an infinite number of times in response to reader selections. And at the moment of truth, when they're ready to buy, they can securely consummate the sale right there on the advertiser's page. And just like breaking news on television, we can now broadcast video live. Yes, live, right from within any single magazine page. To assist both editors and advertisers, deep analytics have been embedded into every single page, making of 11 magazines the most transparently measurable media known to man.
But does this mean the end of the magazine?
Maybe you haven't heard, but we are quickly becoming a digital world. Think about it. The Kindle, the iPad, they're all real threats to the world of books. But what about magazines? Bob Hansen takes a look.
Head to the beach and you'll find people reading, folks mixing the sun with the latest fashion and health magazines. So do they see a digital magazine replacing magazines you can hold in your hand?
I think eventually we'll get there, but I think you're still going to have people like myself who like to feel the pages and, read books to feel the book in your hand.
I have the option to be electronic. I don't know, I just like to hold it, I like to read it.
But clearly traditional magazines are feeling the threat of a digital world, and some say the analog magazine could eventually disappear. But in a changing world, Ken Gabara is holding fast. His newsstand offers nearly 4,000 magazines, from firearms to fitness.
Is it getting tougher?
It's getting tougher, but I think most people are realizing it's not the same when you read it online or on a tablet, because there's nothing like having a magazine in your hand.
The digital world has already claimed the old record stores. Now people get their music online. How much longer can the newsstand survive?
The tablet and the internet is more convenient, I grant you that, but it's just not the same.
Again, for many, it seems to come down to the feel of a paper magazine, one you can hold, roll up, stick in your pocket, or take to the beach. Ken says his newsstand attracts a diverse crowd, some browsing, some buying.
You can come here, you can see something on politics, something on sports, something on fashion, something on cars. There's just so many things that you can see.
This has been a gathering place since 1949, and Ken is convinced a digital threat won't bring it down.
Will the newsstand survive?
Definitely, 100%. I believe it'll make a strong comeback.